So that's what she did. The next day, when the royal clock, known as the iPhone's alarm clock, rang, the princess jumped out of bed and went straight to school. She went off into the poet's corner where she met this cute little boy. Isn't he cute? Yeah, you know those angelish devils we have in class? Oh no, I think I was meant to say devilish angels. Well, it depends on the day, doesn't it? Well, she saw the little boy and she said, "Oh, come here, I have a challenge for you. I need you to write me a..." What kind of poem? Creative poem. Now, time out in my story. Before I tell you what happened between the boy and Princess Farida, I'd like us just to stop and think for a minute. Is that okay? Have a look at this little boy. Now, if you were in my class, I'd ask you to fill in my worksheet. And I'd like you to speak to the person next to you and to look at this little boy and to describe what you see. Once you've done that, could you please look at the little boy and think about what he was thinking when he saw the princess, right? And then, when time's almost up, I'd like you to wonder about what they said in their conversation. So 3 things. First, I would like you to see, describe what you see. Secondly, I'd like you to describe what you're thinking, what he was thinking when he saw the princess. And finally, I'd like you to wonder, now there's no way you could know because you weren't there, you've been here at the TESOL conference, but I'd like you to wonder about what they said. You ready? Now, what language do we use in this classroom? English. If you start speaking in Arabic, I won't know. But the one up there knows everything. You ready? Okay, 30 seconds, so make it quick, 10, 10, 10. And in 30 seconds time, I'll hold up my hands. When I get to 0, I'd like us to start again. Ready? Off you go, my shiny stars. Wonder. In relation to the little boy, not to the worksheet, in relation to the little boy. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Focus, focus, time to focus. Are we ready? Yeah? Now, would you like me to tell you, compare and contrast it to what you thought would happen between the boy and the princess? Are you ready? Now, because we're speaking about writing a poem, I thought that I could tell you the story in a poem-like way. So this poem is called The Little Boy, and it's been written by Helen Buckley. Once, a little boy went to school. He was quite a little boy, and it was quite a big school. But when the little boy found that he could go into his room by walking in through the front door, he was happy. And suddenly the school did not seem so big anymore. One morning, when the little boy had been at school for a while, the teacher said, "Class, today we are going to make a picture." Good, thought the little boy. Oh, he liked to make all kinds of lions and tigers. He liked to have chickens and cows, trains and boats. Wow! And he took out his box of colors and he started to draw. But the teacher said, "Wait! It's not time to begin." And she waited until everybody looked ready. flowers. Oh, good, thought the little boy. He liked to make beautiful ones with his pink and orange and blue crayons. But the teacher said, wait. The teacher, will show you how. And the flower was red with a green stem. There, said the teacher. Now you may begin. The little boy looked at his teacher's flower, and then he looked at his own flower. He liked his flower better than the teacher's flower, but he did not say this. He just turned his paper over, that's it. And he made a flower like the teacher's, and the flower was red with a green stem. You see, this is why I love teachers, they always know the right answer. On another day, when the little boy had opened the door from the outside all by himself, the teacher said, class, today we're going to make something with clay. Nice. Yay, shouted the little boy. He liked clay. He could make all sorts of things with clay. He could make snakes and snowmen, and he could make
reptiles,
elephants, and he could make mice. He could make cars, and he could make trucks. And he began to pull and pinch at his clay. But the teacher said, wait, it's not time to begin. And she waited until everyone, you two, looked ready. Now, said the teacher, we're going to make a dish. Good, thought the little boy. He liked to make dishes, and he began to make some that were all different shapes and sizes. But the teacher said, wait, I will show you how. And so she showed everyone how to make one deep dish. Then said the teacher, now you can begin. The little boy looked at the teacher's dish, and then he looked at his own. He liked his better than the teacher's, but he did not say this. He just rolled his clay into one big ball and tried again. And pretty soon, he didn't make things of his own anymore. Now, when the princess heard this story, her heart fell 1,000 miles, and she realized that this was not going to be as easy as she had initially thought. So off she went home. Now, the next day, she decided that she would travel the kingdom and speak to all the intelligent people and get some clues. And the first person that she saw was a retired, esteemed professor from the American University in Cairo, who had miraculously come out for a cup of tea. And so she explained her predicament to this professor and said, please help me, or I am doomed. I will be forever unemployed. And the professor said, honey, don't worry. Follow the Q&R code, because what you need is 21st century learning. So there's the code. Miraculously enough, the computer got a life of its own, and it took her to the Partnership for 21st Century Learning org.com site. And there she discovered 1,000,001 treasures. She discovered that this business of creative thinking was actually only one of the pillars of 21st century learning, and that it worked hand in hand with the 4 C's. So what were these 4 C's? What would the princess have to do? Well, she would have to get her children to think critically. And the reason why they were thinking critically was that they would have to be communicating. And why would they be communicating? Well, they'd be communicating so that they could collaborate with each other. And if they did all of this well, then they would be able to work together and to create something that wasn't just what the teacher said, but something that was truly inventive. Now this was a lot for the princess to take in, so she decided to go back home. The next morning she woke up, jumped out of bed and hit the streets. And guess who she met? Now there are days when you are lucky, and there are days when you are really lucky. And this was one of those days. It turns out that the NileTESOL conference was in town, and that they had invited the special one to come and talk. And his name was Professor Cabrera, Derek Cabrera. Now Derek has dedicated his lifetime to studying how people learn and think. So he was just the perfect little victim to help the princess. But unfortunately, he didn't have good news for her. I don't know if you've noticed this in your classrooms, but what he told her was that children nowadays are not as creative as we were when we were at school. Somehow, we could imagine more and better. Have you noticed this? Now, why, said the princess, why? And he said, well, it's easy. It's all Lego's fault. Now, can you give me a wave if you ever played with Legos when you were small? You know those little coloured blocks? Yeah? Now, as Derek explained to the Princess Farida, when we were small, and I'm presuming that you are not 20 anymore, you know, if you're 21 like me, when we were small, that Legos used to come in a box that looked like this, and they used to come in different colours, right? There was no picture on the cover except a whole load of Legos, and you could open this box and put all those little pieces together, and you could create a dinosaur. And you could smash it up and then create a house, and you could create a car. In fact, you could create anything. But nowadays, have you seen what Lego boxes look like? They look like this. That's it, they've already been designed. So you get a box to build a house. Now it's amazing because this box only builds a house. And to make sure that you build a house, you get these long and complicated instructions. And if you don't follow it blindly, you will not get a house like this. And the world will end. Now, it's not that there isn't any creative thinking going into these boxes. The problem is that the people doing the creative thinking are all in Denmark at the Lego headquarters. And the children in the middle and millions of houses all around the world are doing what? Well, the princess realized that this was the little boy's story all over again. And she was terrified. Worry doesn't even begin to describe what she felt. So she only had one option, to go back home and wait for the next day. Now, the next day, the iPhone rang and she jumped out of bed, praying, please, please show me the one that will give me the solution to my dilemma. And luck has it, because she met the one who would explain why all this business of 21st century learning and creative thinking was important. Kids would need it for their future studies, for work, or even to become active citizens. And this one was a person called, can you guess? Do you remember his name? Dr. Derek, who just happened to be going for a morning stroll before he started the conference. And he said to the princess, Princess, if you want to get your children to think creatively, then the first thing that you need to do is to get them thinking from different angles. Think about the problem in different ways. And the princess looked at him. Do you think in what? Different ways. But isn't there just one way to think, the right way? Oh, no, said Derek. You need to show them different ways of learning. Now, you mentioned yesterday that you wanted to get them to write a poem. So you can't just go into the classroom and say, write a poem. Because if you do that, what will you get? Crap. I see you've tried that in class before. What you need to do is to show them different ways of learning about poems. So you might want to start off with watching a video about poetry so children can see what it means. And then perhaps you might want to look into why people decide to write poetry in the first place. What's it for? Why do we do it? And then perhaps you might show them some different poems. And then they might read these poems. And then they might write these poems. And finally they might recite their poems. But you cannot just ask them to write. Oh, I think I get it, said the princess. Well, all this is a lot of work. But the princess said, Dr. Derek, my kids here in Egypt are slightly different to your kids wherever it is that you teach. Because my kids don't have any great ideas. Has that ever happened to you? Teacher, tell me what I should do. Anything you want. Yeah, teacher, but what should I do? This is the problem, Dr. Derek. This is what I have to deal with every day. Have you noticed how my hair's going white? Well, said Dr. Derek, your problem is that you are not working on brainstorming ideas. Perhaps you could start by doing this as a class. Everybody could put their heads together, because you know what they say, many heads are better than just one. And you can brainstorm different ideas, and perhaps you can get some different graphic organizers to help the children sort out these ideas and to choose their best idea. Now remember, the thing about creativity is that it's 99% perspiration and 1% inspiration. The idea is just the beginning. But then you need to get the children working on it. Oh no, thought the princess. This really is not as easy as I thought it was. And so she walked a little further on, and much to her amazement, she saw the one, and I'm not speaking about George Clooney. She saw Sir Ken Robinson. Now, Sir Ken is the man when it comes to creativity. And he's published 3 books, which if you're interested, I strongly recommend. And the first thing she decided to do was to ask for help. And so in her best princess voice, she said, help me, please. And Sir Ken said, oh dear, Princess Marita, I can help you, but it ain't gonna be easy. What is the problem? Schools nowadays are killing students' creativity. They come to school very eager to learn, and somehow something goes wrong. And after a while, they're counting the years before they can leave us. Princess, if you want to make a difference, then you need to find another way of teaching. And the learning styles, the multiple intelligences, this is the metaphor. Follow the multiple intelligences and you will solve your problem. The what? Said Princess Farida. The multiple intelligences. They will help children find their creative element. And the princess thought about this. And she thought, and she thought. Sir Ken, if it's not too much trouble, could you give me an example? Oh, sure thing. You're a nut. I've come for the conference. I have just the examples to show you. And so words to memorize. Because memorizing is the first step to forgetting. You'll know if you've ever tried. What the princess had to do was give the children ownership of the language. And she had to involve different learning styles. So yes, she could choose words which would appeal to linguistic learners, but she had to involve something for the visual learners who would remember them in that way. And then she had to make the students work with the language and create something, even if it was just meaning in their minds. And so rewriting and regurgitating was not the way to a creative poem. To make things worse, he told the princess that poetry lives off sound. That's why we write poems. So she would help students learn about poetry with their ears. And once she'd done that, she would have to help them see the power of words. Because this is how she would appeal to their imagination. They had to see how words could take them to different places before they could create these places of their own. Then, and only then, would they be ready to start learning together. Because the thing about creativity is that it works better when there's a friend nearby. Now the princess thought, oh, good Lord, the days are going by and I still have nothing, and now he tells me to do all this, and I have a pacing schedule, how am I going to do this? And he said, get going, don't waste time moaning. But the princess felt heavy-hearted and decided that she needed a bit of a rest. Before you go, princess, said Ken Robinson, your mission in your classroom will be to help the children find their element. Their what? Said the princess. Their element. Don't tell me you've never heard about this before. Oh, of course I have, said the princess. The what? Get me Google now. Their element, princess, is the way that we learn without realizing that we learn. So, you know when you do something and you love it and you shine like the shiny star that you are? That's your element. Now the problem is that kids are going in school and coming out of school without ever discovering their element. They go into university and think, what on earth should I study? Because I don't know what I'm good at. Princess, it's your job to show them their element. Oh dear, the princess thought, this ain't gonna be easy. Now the next day brought a very, very wise friend. On her way to the conference, she met the city's most intellectual man. And she asked him, well, do you have any wise words for me? And he said, oh, that's easy. Just put a little creativity into everything you do. So there's no such thing as a creative lesson, but there is such a thing as a creative moment in every lesson. Even if it's only 5 minutes long, plan for creativity if you want to get creative learners. Said the princess. Do you think you could give me an example? Because the supervisor's coming next week and she might want to see a good lesson. Yeah, princess. Why don't you get them to make silly sentences? Silly what? Said the princess. Silly sentences. I wonder if you'd like to try one. Do you have a piece of paper and a pen? If you do, and you're in the mood, let's make silly sentences together. So first of all, I'd like you to choose a letter from the alphabet, and it could be any one. I'm going to choose S, because S, well, stands for Sir Ken Robinson. But you can choose any one. As a friend, I don't recommend that you choose the difficult ones, like V's and X's and Y's, because your brain might just catch fire with all that thinking. Now, after that, have you chosen your letter? Can you give me a thumbs up, because this is a really big classroom. Usually I don't teach with these many students. Right? Right, can you please think of a fruit that begins with that letter? So if I've chosen S, Can anybody think of a fruit for S? Strawberry. That's it. That's it. Okay. And once you've done that, can you think of a verb? So a verb with S. Do you know this verb?